This is actually the 4th time recording this video because I've had nothing but audio problems and other boneheaded mistakes that I've been doing. Watch this video out of sympathy. JayzTwoCents here, and as my childhood idol, Tim the Toolman Taylor always said, this thing needs more power. And that's exactly what we're gonna look at. The EVGA Supernova 1600 G2 stands for, do you even lift, bro? I'm not even kidding, guys. I feel like such a YouTube noob, considering this is the 4th time I've done this video, although it should flow pretty good now, I guess. Recently, I stuck the EVGA Supernova 1000 G2 in Skunkworks, and today we are taking a look at the 1600, which might lead to the question, why on earth would I need 1600 watts of power? Well, we're going to talk about that today. Now, first things first, let's go ahead and talk about what's in the box. Inside the box, you find 2 more boxes. This is the power supply right here, which might end up being one of the longest power supplies you've really ever taken a look at. And there it is right there in all of its textured goodness. 140 millimeter fan, fully modular cables, nice giant on-off switch, and fully meshed exhaust plate on there, giving it amazing airflow. But where the weight is actually coming from is this guy right here, because this is all of those modular cables, and my God, do they give you a lot of them. Now we'll just go ahead and get this guy out of the way. We'll go ahead and set the power supply aside for a second because we'll get back to that in a moment. Now these are all of the cables that they give you here, which is way, way more than anyone would ever need for a single system, but hey, they're included. So you get this kind of a nylon pouch here where you can put all your extra cables in there. And the only way to really do this is just dump them out. And as you can see, we have got a lot of cables. Now the first thing you might notice, or maybe you didn't, is they actually give you this 24-pin auxiliary connector, which is perfect for jump starting the power supply if you wanted to use it as a test bench or something like that. Or if you're doing a water cooling build, this is how you can jump start your water pump so that you don't have to burn up your system when you're trying to bleed it. This is cool. It's only a couple bucks, but I'm glad to see that they've included it. Shows they're going sort of the extra mile there. You've got some Velcro straps here to keep things nice and tidy. And you've got a whole bunch of modular cables. Now what I'm digging for down here is these guys right here. Now I've docked power supplies in the past for including the floppy drive cable, power cables, because normally I just clip them off anyway, which I don't like to do. But they give you 2 of them here with 4-pin Molex leads so that you can plug them in if you need them. Now that comes in handy because there are some accessories out there that actually run off of this floppy drive cable connector. So you can include it in your system if you need it and just toss it aside if you don't. Now the other thing that I'm going to give positive points for here is that EVGA also went the extra mile of including all black cables. Black cables are just so nice. Now I like all black cables because even though you may have black sleeving on here, once you see the exposed part of the cables here, and the reason why these are exposed, if you guys have ever wondered, is so that you can make those bends. Most of the time you have it comes up off your motherboard and it has to bend down, so you couldn't bend it very well if you had it all sleeved up all the way to the end. But it keeps it from looking like a 1972 psychedelic acid trip inside your computer. If you're going for some sort of a color aesthetic or theme, you can actually not have to worry about it because it's all black.
And you know, once you go black, you never go back.
To colored cables, that is. Now they give you 9 Pci Express cables. 9 cables is more than enough for you to be able to do a quad or 4-way SLI. Now let's go ahead and go to the class real quick, guys, because I get asked an awful lot about quad versus 4-way and what the difference is, and I figure we'll just kind of throw that into this video real quickly. Quad SLI is when you take 2 dual GPU cards like the Titan Z. Quad SLI is when you take 2 dual GPU video cards like the AMD R9 295X2 and you put 2 of them in a single system. That is a quad SLI. 4-way SLI is when you take 4 single GPU cards and you run them in SLI config. That is a 4-way SLI. So I will be going 3-way SLI when I put my 3rd GTX 780 in Skunkworks when I go to the X99 Extreme Processor Platform Refresh a little bit later on. So I will be going with a 3-way, not a tri-SLI. Guys, it's not tri-SLI. It's a 3-way. Things are going to be getting a little freaky-deaky in my system, if you will. All right, moving on. So you get all of these cables with it, and the cool part about these cables is not only does it have all black, sleeved cables that come with it, but if you fancy yourself wanting some color, you can actually pick up one of EVGA's color cable kits like I did with my review of the 1000 watt. I have the red ones here, and they all share the exact same modular cables, so they are compatible with any of the Supernova power supplies that are fully modular like this. So that is really cool. I don't have to worry about compatibility issues later on if I decide to upgrade to maybe a titanium version of this if one comes out later. I'll just have them plug the new one in, all the cables stay intact. That is a great feature. I like when companies incorporate cross-platform compatibility with their accessories. That's a huge deal. If they were to change their proprietary plugs or their modular plugs every refresh, then if you had custom cables, then that would just be a turnoff. It would make you pretty upset. All right, so moving on, guys, I'm going to be referencing Johnny Guru's full in-depth load testing of this power supply as a guide for what I'm about to tell you guys. I highly recommend you guys all open the description, go to his review, and read it. It's funny, and it's very educational. It will actually teach you guys a lot about power supplies. But we're just going to talk about some of the high-level stuff here in this overview because I'm not load testing it, so I can't actually speak from any first-hand experience. Moving on to power delivery, this thing does feature some pretty impressive power delivery here. In fact, the 5 volt and 3.3 volt rails can both deliver 24 amps up to 120 watts of power, and the single 12 volt rail can actually supply 133.3 amps of power. Now, some power supplies will actually have multiple 12 volt rails in there where the amps are divided. And that actually leads to an issue when you go with very power-hungry graphics cards, especially if you're going with SLI configs. It's much better to have a nice, beefy, powerful single 12-volt rail across the entire power supply, and that's exactly what they've done here. Highly recommended. Max output on the 12-volt rail, 150 watts, guys. Right here, you heard it first. No, 1,599.6 watts. Yeah. It's delivering the power, baby. Now, the impressive part about that is the fact that it's able to do it while maintaining 50 degrees Celsius temperature. And that's because of the massive 140 millimeter intake fan and the components inside are arranged in such a way so it has very good airflow. Now, it's actually a very quiet power supply as well because it is PWM load controlled fan, and the fan will only ramp up if the load on the CPU increases as well. So it keeps things nice and cool. There's no software with this power supply. The old 1500 Supernova version of the power supply used to actually contain built-in software that you could use. But I like letting the power supply take control of itself. That's just the way I've always felt. So I've never bought into the whole software-controlled power supplies. But that's just me. Now, when it comes to power efficiency curve, if you take a look at Johnny Guru's in-depth load testing review, please go check it out. Do yourself a favor. You'll see that this thing was actually maintaining a very impressive power efficiency curve. In fact, bumping its head up against platinum during that test was actually pretty damn impressive. And he said that when you take into account the margin of error of the testing equipment, it very well could have passed platinum standards if EVGA wanted to be a little less conservative. But EVGA chose to put a gold rating on here instead of a platinum rating because they'd rather underpromise and overdeliver rather than vice versa. That would make for a very angry situation. Now, why would you want to go with a massive power supply like this? Jay, you're not going to be using 1600 watts of power. Even with 3-way SLI and an X99 8-core overclocked, you're not going to come anywhere near that. And you're right, I'm probably going to top out somewhere between 1,000 to 1,100 watts. Total system draw, including the water cooling, the lights, the fans, the 3-way SLI, and all of that. Now, the reason for that is if you take a look at his testing, you'll see that at a 50% load, at 800 watts drawn from the power supply, he was actually maintaining a 91.8% efficiency. That is pretty damn cool. And once you take into account that I'll be running right around 1,000 to 1,100 watts, I'm still going to be maintaining over 90% efficient. That's what I'm after. And the reason for that is because, as I mentioned earlier, the efficiency curve of the power supply, if you can keep it in its max efficiency range based on your power draw, then you actually get the benefits of a cooler power supply, longer life, less noise, and you're going to get a little bit, money saved on your power bill. Now, I did a video before where I talked about power bill, but guys, when you're talking about 1,000 watts, the amount of power that you save by drawing 100 to 150 watts less from the wall at any given time is actually beneficial over the life of your computer. Now, we'll get more into depth of that later in another video, a video where we talk about power supplies and how to pick the right size, why you should oversize, how much you should oversize, etc. So we'll talk about that in an entirely separate video. But if you want to know more about this power supply, I highly recommend you head over to Johnny Guru's video, or actually it's a written review. It's not long, it's fun to read, he's a very good writer. He doesn't even know me. I'm just pointing it out because I think it's a great resource to learn not only about this power supply, but all power supplies. So guys, I'm gonna get the hell on out of here because I've got to see a man about a wallaby, to be quite honest. Sorry for the graphic details. Not really. All right, guys, hope to see you on Twitter and some social media and stuff. And if you just stumbled across my channel, I hope you stick around. Maybe you can learn something. Maybe you can even teach me a thing or two. And as always, guys, I will see you in the next one. Unless that next one happens to be another version of this video because I somehow f***ed up and I have to do it for a 5th time, which wouldn't be surprising. In fact, during the editing of this video, the battery died, which is funny because it was fully charged. So I've got a bad battery. My second battery is actually bad on top of all of this. That's really annoying. See you later.